All right, fellas, we are kicking it off here with the Western Conference, taking a look at some of these futures, series prices, and all of that. Got Modai and Kyle the Sauce. Definitely want to give those dudes a follow as well. All their stuff will be in the description of the video. But let's get right into the first series that, I'm really interested in with that Clippers and Mavs, right? In the West, you got the 4-5 there. Money coming in on the Mavs, and it does seem to be like people are just riding the fact that they've looked like a lot better of a squad than of late. I did take the Mavs minus 110 on the series price, and there was a little discrepancy there between DK and FanDuel, which really helped me get a little bit of extra juice there. Another 10 cents was helpful on that bet. So Kyle, I just kind of want to start with you, man, and see what you're thinking about that Mavs and Clippers series.
Oh man, we're starting out with like my least favorite series on the board. These two teams, obviously, they're different than they were, 2 years ago when they went to 7 games. But that series specifically, I've had success betting the NBA playoffs, but that series, I went 1-6 against the spread and went to 7 games, and I went 1-6. And my win was Game 7. So I was 0-6. I couldn't get a feel for that series, and that's kind of how I feel looking at this matchup here. I feel like it's such a coin flip. Now, do we know injury status on Kawhi Leonard?
Looks like he's going to play.
Ty Lue's hoping that he plays, but with Kawhi, you never know.
But the thing is, the Clippers' defense just completely fell off even before Kawhi got hurt. So it would have to be Dallas just based on the way they've been playing. But Kawhi Leonard, we've seen him do some really crazy stuff in the playoffs before. So there's obviously the talent on the LA side to win the series. That feels like the most coin flippy series where like I might just keep betting overs or something. I don't know what to do there. That's my least favorite series on the board, to be honest.
Hell yeah, glad I started with you. Modai, what are you thinking though, dude? I real quick, I just wanted to let you know, I feel you. I get it. But I actually just believe in this Mavs team at this point. So I'm kind of interested where you're at with that one, Modai.
I'm the same way. I'm leaning towards the Mavericks. It's one of those things where like, how much emphasis do you put on how the season ended? Because, basically for the last 2 months of the year, the Clippers were average. They were perfectly average. Like if you basically go to the post All-Star break until now, they're 15-14 overall with a net rating of negative 0.5. If you look at the last 15 games, technically they're 9-6, which looks better than their net rating as a +1. So like they've been an average team basically for 2 months now. And that 26-5, whatever run they went on in the middle of the year is completely behind us. And I know that we've seen Kawhi turn into like a playoff menace. He does seem like he can flip the switch, but for a team that's never been through the playoffs together, like they went to the conference finals, but even then they beat a fraudulent Utah team in the second round. Kawhi didn't even play in the last 2 games of that series. And that was also 2 years ago. Like I just have a hard time believing they can just flip the switch after looking like an average team for the past 2 months, whereas the Mavericks have been awesome. Like basically the total opposite. Since the All-Star break, they've been great. Last 15 games, they're 12-3. They have a net rating best for 7. They have net rating that would qualify as 7th best in the NBA, plus 6.2. I think their team makes sense with like the trades they made with for Gafford and PJ Washington. So I would lean the Mavericks here. It's not like I feel like this is the most open that I can remember a first round series in general. Like if you look at all 4 series, normally there's like one cakewalk outside of the top 2 seeds. I feel like there's no cakewalk in either of these 4 that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's fair. When you get to the middle of the Western Conference, you're talking about how many teams are better in the East than these playoff teams, right? Like, if you put the Mavs in the East, they're easily the 2 seed, right? Like the way that they look. Yeah.
Whoa, let's relax a little bit.
Who are you putting above them outside
Knicks.
of the C's? Really?
Fair. Okay. I think that's fair.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. Our Knicks don't even have an opponent yet, which is awesome. But yeah, I laid, like I said, I put a full unit on the series price for the Mavs, even at minus 110. I missed out on getting plus money on them, but I agree. Like if you look at the clips, you're really just banking on what's Kawhi going to do. If not, now we're talking about Harden and PG leading a team in the first round of a series. Like who's going to just wither away first between those 2 dudes? That's the competition.
Harden.
Probably Harden. Yeah. But if you look at playoff stuff in general, right? Like I still love Kyrie more than I honestly like any other second fiddle on that team to outshine both Harden and PG. And that's kind of where it comes in for me is if Kawhi's there, maybe what he can do on both sides of the floor neutralizes Luka a little bit. But there has not been a better team in the West since the All-Star break except for the Mavs, right? Like they are, especially against the spread, is really what I'm coming into here. And the thing that makes me believe in the Mavs now is that defensive field goal percentage right around the rim, and the fact that they have legit players at power forward and center now. Instead of just relying on 4 shooters around Luka, they actually have like at least two centers that they can put in and are a reason for what we've seen from them around the rim on defense. So that's where I'm at with that one. Is keeping it in the West for a minute though. Let's move on to the 3-6 for a sec, which we know as well. I don't really even want to be the one to touch this. I'm kind of hoping that you guys have something for Suns and T-Wolves, which I believe you still get a little bit of good juice on the Suns. We just saw wax the floor with the Timberwolves. Like where are you at with that one, Modi?
Yeah, this one, like this is a total toss-up to me. Someone could convince me of either side. I went with the Timberwolves just because like we've seen the Suns play well in stretches before, but never consistently. Like there's a stretch where they look really good, and then they lost back-to-back games to the Spurs. They got waxed by the Clippers. It was like 32-7 in the first 6 minutes of the game, whenever that was, like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean they are 3-0 against the Timberwolves this year. That's probably not nothing. But like contrary to the Mavericks, who I do trust, like the Mavericks played well for a longer period of time than we ever really saw the Suns. A lot of that was health because like Beal was out at the beginning of the year and Booker was out. Like Kevin Durant was somehow the Iron Man. I think he played 72 games or something, 75, something like that, which is like impressive for him. But the Suns have just like the Timberwolves have just been the better team all year. They're 32-20, the third best record against teams with a winning record. Suns are like 28-25. And the jump shooting team, unless you're like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, I get that Beal, Durant, and Booker are all-time greats, but like they're gonna have 2 games where they look amazing and they think how can anybody beat them, but then they're gonna go cold for 2 games and it's gonna be the opposite. So I just trust the Timberwolves infrastructure more. But I mean, like I said, I could be swayed either way. I'm not super confident.
Yeah, this is easy Phoenix for me. I feel like I've seen this movie 10 times already. Dating back to the Utah Jazz days, these teams that are built centered around their defense on the interior. Rudy Gobert, we've seen the Jazz get the 1 seed, right? They never do anything in the playoffs. Star power wins. And I just feel like we see the same thing. Minnesota actually is strikingly similar to those Jazz teams, with a young Donovan Mitchell being Anthony Edwards. And yeah, they're grabbing the 1 seed or the 2 seed again with the number 1 interior defense again. And then they run into a James Harden on the Rockets and lose, or they run into a Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and lose. When they run into the Stars, those teams that are built that way just don't get it done. It sucks. Because it's kind of like the square way to betting on superstars. But when it comes to those teams, we just see the team with the structured interior defense lose. And not to mention the Suns are hitting their shots, and also it's kind of a matchup advantage. There's a reason the Suns have had success against Minnesota is the Timberwolves are based on protecting the rim, and the Suns have no interest in even going in there. Suns do all their damage from about 15 feet or outside. Which is not that Minnesota can't defend jump shooters, but it's certainly the weakest part of their defense. Yeah, I honestly can see the Suns sweeping.
Before Josh goes, my only counterpoint to that is this Timberwolves perimeter defense is way better than any of those Jazz. Like Donovan Mitchell never cared about guarding the perimeter. Bogey never cared about. It was like Jordan Clarkson. It was all those guys. Not like Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. Way better on the perimeter, but I totally hear you. Trust me, I totally hear you.
I mean, that's fair. I feel like we've seen the movie before.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to watch you guys talk about it. Honestly, I'm definitely leaning Suns. I've been awful at betting on the Suns, whether it's player props or sides. Absolutely terrible at it this season. If you've been good at it, like mazel tov, because that's crazy to me. They're so sporadic. But what it comes down to really for me is the same thing as what I was watching with the T-Wolves. It was like their second to last game now. I'm already forgetting who they were playing when they needed that other win. But it was like, well, this whole being able to score at the end of games thing seems pretty important, and it only gets more important in the playoffs, right? And so that's like all the Rudy stuff is still alive to me in terms of like, oh, you just run this dude off the floor in the playoffs and you're fine. Like I do think there's still some of that to be said as well, right? That's always been the recipe for beating a Rudy Gobert team, on top of not even worrying about going down low nearly as much. The Suns do seem to have the number, especially because of the play style. So I think we kind of know where Kyle's leaning. Did you lay anything down on that yet, Modi, or no?
No.
Dope. All right. Well, do you have something for the Eastern Conference series that you laid down?
No, I haven't actually, like, I have predictions for each one. I haven't actually bet any of them. So actually, no, I have one. I have one that I bet, one that I actually feel confident in.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's get into that one.
Pacers money line against the Bucks. I mean, in what world are the Bucks?
How do you not? How do you not?
And it's plus money. It's like plus 146 or something.
Yeah,
like,
how do you not bet that?
Exactly. I put money on that. I think it's a wild price. Expecting Giannis to play, expecting the Bucks to look good, which they haven't basically since they've like hired Doc Rivers.
Poor Glenn. Where are you at with Glenn and the Bucks there, Kyle?
Well, I'm not a big Pacers guy, so if Giannis is able to come back, I expect him to win that series. But Matt's completely right. If there's even a coin flip chance that Giannis isn't going to play in game one, how do you not want to have a Pacers money line ticket in your pocket? That's the game one of that series is until Sunday. So if I'm being honest, I go in order. So like I'm ready to talk about the play-ins. So like those games the series that don't start till Sunday, I'm not completely prepared to talk about. But if Giannis isn't going to play 100%, I will say that the Bucks can still protect the basket even without Giannis. Brook Lopez can protect the rim. Bobby Portis can protect the rim. That does take away a little bit of what the Pacers do. But overall, where are the Bucks points going to come from without Giannis? They're a team that relies on the outside shot. Pacers play great defense against the outside shot. So maybe under, honestly, would probably be the move there. Because I think the Bucks can still put up a decent defensive effort. But I just don't know where the points. Maybe a Bucks team total under, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, for game one. No, I feel that. I mean, I am taking. So I hit a little parlay actually on series prices. I love doing this with series spreads. So I took a plus 1.5 for the Pacers, and parlayed it with plus 1.5 for the Mavs, and got that up to about plus 120. I just don't see the Mavs losing in like, in 5 games, let's say, for instance, right? Even 6, honestly. Like I don't see that coming for that series. And in this one, like I am banking on what we've seen from the Pacers against this Bucks team for a couple of not whatever reasons, like pretty clearly discernible reasons for why they've handled things. And it really was a slightly different D without like Pat Bev getting a few more minutes. I think that has made like a huge difference for this transition defense for the Bucks. Like you were kind of saying, Kyle, like they are a little bit better on defense in a way that like, I'm not as important as Giannis is for the offense. Like really where he's most important to me is the defense. And I think it really comes down to matchups if he's not in there, because if he's in there, then like you can just stick him on pretty much whomever you're like, this dude's not going to beat us. Right. Is it Pascal? Right. Are you trying to make sure that like, even at times that like between he and Beasley and Pat Bev, that they're all three of them have got their eyes on Halliburton, and that you put him on like a scrub of some kind, right? At that point, then he's just playing free safety. Like, then that changes everything. But if he's even not healthy for like 2 games, then I love the Pacers plus 1.5. And the money line for game one is so beautiful as well that I fully agree with you guys on that one. But let's close the future stuff anyway with the Cavs and the Magic real quick, which is I think
the NBA TV.
Oh man, like they're just gonna stick this thing on like the Ocho or whatever channel they want and be done with it. But I mean, honestly, what it comes down to for me, and I'll just kick it off, is like Jamal Mosley better than JB Bickerstaff. Like I have zero belief in JB Bickerstaff to make any kind of in-game changes, update his stuff to like make it clever in any way. Like he's really just white paper. It's just like here's two bigs, here's 2 smalls, and we'll see if like other guys can fit in around those 4 players. And all of them have played really poorly together. They are a team in flux entirely. I did hit the not only did I hit that series spread bet there with the parlay, I did also throw in the Magic into that at plus 1.5 as well to get it up to about 270 on my money there for all 3 of those teams to not lose by 2 games in the series there. So let's kick it off with you, Kyle, if you have any thoughts about Magic and Cavs.
I mean, if you're asking me to pick the series winner, it would be Cleveland, but they're a little too pricey as far as betting it. I'm not the biggest futures guy, but I mean, what you said about the coaching is right. I don't have much faith in Bickerstaff at all, but I think this Orlando team is just highly overvalued. They're very one-dimensional, and I don't know where it went, but Cleveland was an elite interior defense at some point. Maybe we see if it shows up in the playoffs. If Cleveland comes out playing elite defense on the interior, which by the way, it's not crazy to think a team defense ramps up in the playoffs. We
Sure.
see it all the time. So if Cleveland comes out and starts playing top 5, top 10 defense at the rim again, like they were earlier in the season, then I think Cleveland probably cruises through this series because that's basically all Orlando could do offensively. It's not a good offense.
Yeah.
So
That's
I like Cleveland to advance. But as far as betting, I mean, it's tough. I just looked here. Cleveland to win the series minus 186. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for cursing.
No, you're
get
good.
out of here.
Yeah.
And then they FanDuel doesn't even have a Cavs minus 1.5 market
Right.
open. You would have to do Cavs minus 2.5 at plus 210. It's definitely the worst series on the board for
Without
sure.
question.
Betting value wise, probably
Is there-
viewership wise also.
Yeah, definitely. What I'm wondering too, real quick from you, Kyle, is like, I know you have a couple like strategies going into playoffs. Like, is there anything for that series or any of these that you're like, this is how I like kind of plan to go into these like game by game bets, essentially?
Well, the way I do it is, and actually me and Modi were talking about this the other day. I think the most effective way to do it is just take up season stats here and then line up game 1 stats, game 2 stats. And what I like to look at, rebounding and turnovers, where's their regression coming? Like, all right, Miami won game 1, but you know what? Philadelphia turned the ball over 19 times. This team doesn't turn the ball over like that. So we're most likely only going to see 7 or 8 turnovers. And also, it's easy. Coaching adjustments are pretty predictable as well. If a team gets up 70 points in the paint, they're going to collapse, and I expect 3-point looks. The coaching adjustments in basketball tend to be, I don't want to say predictable because that makes it seem like it's simple. It's not. But as far as like what the overall strategy is, for example, this game that we have tomorrow night, Lakers-Pelicans. Lakers put up damn near 70 points in the paint on the Pelicans. So we know priority number 1 for New Orleans, don't let LeBron and AD get to the paint. LeBron and Anthony Davis combined for 58 points with 0 made 3-pointers. They were bullying the Pelicans inside. So it's pretty predictable to know that New Orleans is going to come out with the defensive strategy, keep these guys out of the paint. So I look at what happened in the previous couple games or previous couple games and look for where the regression and adjustments are coming. And I've had a lot of success doing that. That's why I'm not the biggest futures guy, because it's like, let me watch the game and then I'll tell you what I think.
No, that's fair. Where are you at with this series, Modi?
Yeah, real quick, just to that point about like playoff betting strategies. I did a ton of deep dives last year, basically into that, and like it's not even betting matchups; it's betting spots. Like if the favorite loses game 1, almost no matter what the spread is in game 2, like they're gonna win and cover. The only example of that not happening was the Heat when they started up 3-0 against the Celtics. Every other example of a team winning, the underdog winning game 1, the home team came in and won game 2 by covered the spread by like 16 points. It was like not even close.
Yeah.
And then there's always value on the team down 2-0 in the third game. It's not like a 100% hit rate, but I think people just are like, wow, this team just beat them 2 games in a row. Like I'm going to bet them to win again. Like they're underdogs, whatever. There's always value on that team down. And also I feel like with totals, it's really, a lot of times it's just it flip flops. Like if game 1 went over, game 2 is going to go under. Like again, none of these are 100% hit rates, but like more often than not, like literally just betting the opposite for totals is the way to go, because it's like shooting regression, kind of like what Kyle said. Anyways, for this series, it's like I have no idea. Like what Cavs team is gonna show up? The Cavs team that finished 6-9 with a net rating that was worse than the Spurs to end the year, or is it the Cavs team that went like 18-1? I forget the exact numbers, but looked phenomenal. Granted, they looked phenomenal when Garland was hurt and Evan Mobley was hurt, and their team made a lot more sense. But it's not like I wasn't super impressed with how the Magic ended the season either. Like in a game they needed to win. I mean, they beat the Bucks last game of the season. They got smoked by the Sixers the game before that. They got smoked by the Bucks the game before that, and they lost to the freaking Charlotte Hornets. Like they had some gross losses to end the season.
On the road, mostly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, this one's on the road in Cleveland.
On the road,
game one. Yeah, game 1 is, and like, the Cavs looked so pathetic in the playoffs last year. Like, they got punched in the mouth by the Knicks.
They ran into a freight train.
And they laid down and they bent over and said, please, have your way with me. Like,
I was at game 4. I witnessed the bending over.
They put up no fight. And, like, the Magic aren't nearly as good as that Knicks team, but they play physical. Like, they will get in your face and they will play physical. So if they lay down and die again and Donovan Mitchell's like, get me out of here, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being another 5-game series just because the Cavs laid down and died. But in terms of my prediction, I mean, like Kyle said, I'm not going to bet this because minus 186 absolutely the F not. But I would predict the Cavs would win just because I've seen a higher ceiling. They have higher, like Donovan Mitchell. Maybe he looked bad at the end of the year. Like he looked a little bit better. Like what are the game? I think they beat the Cavaliers. He looked pretty good in that one. Or sorry, the Pacers. I mean,
Pacers, yeah.
If I remember correctly. But I'm not putting my money anywhere near the series price.
No.
And also, this is a Cleveland defense that can force a lot of turnovers. And Orlando, as good as they are at a lot of things, man, this team, for the most part of for most of the season, cannot protect the ball.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and they look completely different with Franz out there, which we saw last Sunday too. And if he's healthy, then I'd feel a little bit better about them. But it's tough because if there was anybody that had any playoff experience playing the Cavs, you'd be like, great, give me whatever that is, right? And now you're talking about Paolo point guard, right? Like, this team doesn't have a point guard. Paolo Banchero is the dude at the top of the key, getting the most passes, making the most passes, the most potential assists. Like, he's the point guard. There's not even anybody close. Then you talk about the backup minutes for the Magic as well. My thing is just simply like, I believe in this Cavs team not at all, just not at all, and have zero faith in them. And like I said, Bickerstaff, I believe, is going to be looking for a job. If this series even goes like 7, I believe he's looking for a job because they're going to get waxed in the next series, to be honest. So I have zero faith in either of them. But I know I also wanted to just kind of touch on the point about the Lake Show real quick, because I know Modi and are going to get into the Western Conference playing games and give us some bets out. I know you still got to look at that stuff, Kyle. But while I have you here real quick, like, what do y'all make about that series where we just saw Joe Val play 7 minutes in a game where the Lakers gave up 68 points the Lakers scored 68 points in the paint, as you were alluding to the almost 70. It was 68, and they won that 68-49. Like, the Pellies weren't getting anything from inside the paint. They were a jump shooting team, and then Zion did his thing when he could. But like, what's the play here? Because we're both trying to figure out player props for Modi and myself especially. What's the play with, like, is Larry Nance getting another 30, or can you really leave Joval on the bench for most of the game when you have no interior presence?
Well, I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, pretty sure he only started the game to get his 82.
Right.
He had 81 games and he just wanted to start. I think they were resting him in that game. I'm pretty sure that's why. Am I mistaken on that?
Well, they've done that before. They've started him and he's played 4 minutes and then they took him out for the rest of the game. Like they did that against the Suns, where I think he played 3 minutes in that game.
He did.
Yeah.
And they did that. Quick, to interrupt, because that was the moment in time that Willie Green came out and said, I'd like playing Dyson Daniels alongside Larry Nance and having those dudes
so they're
be
switchable.
Or not even Larry Nance. Yeah, like just have Dyson Daniels in there as almost like the small ball center with Zion continued. And they just think because they're so big at other positions that they should be able to get rebounds. How do you do that against this Lakers team where all they do is bully you down low, right? So if you're the Pellies, like, either of you, anybody have any kind of look at like how they might play their rotation in this series?
I mean, there's a couple things. Now, I feel like the arguments to make for a Lakers bet are pretty obvious. I mean, they look like the better team recently, without a doubt. There's a couple things, though. If you're looking to bet New Orleans, you can look at the fact that, okay, the Pelicans just shot over 40% from 3 against the Lakers the other night. That's not an outlier. The Pelicans have been hitting their outside shots, and the Lakers can't defend it. So I expect the Pelicans to shoot over 40%. If anything, the regression in the three-point department is probably on the Lakers side.
Oh, yeah.
The chances of them shooting 38% might not be there. And also, I mean, how do you not keep Valanciunas on the court after giving up 68 points in the paint? You would think that they make an adjustment there, but I'm not the type of guy that claims to know like more about Pelicans basketball than the head coach. Like, I'm sure he had a reason. Yeah. There's that. And I hate this kind of shit, but you do have to mention there is the narrative that the Lakers would rather get the 8th seed.
I can't get my head around it.
It's stupid.
I can't get my head around it.
To think that they would choose to play an elimination game against Golden State
or
Sacramento.
Risk Steph Curry scoring 50
worse
points.
against Zach. It's Zach. We've got the whole Sabonis owns AD narrative, right?
True.
Right.
Fox.
The Kings own the Lakers, and the idea that, like, to avoid Denver, like, yo, these are the best basketball players in the world. They're not scared of anybody. The Lakers gave Denver a series last year. If anything, they might want their rematch. They might want Denver, for all we know. I think the narrative that the Lakers are trying to avoid Denver in any way is a bunch of bullshit, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So I personally don't buy into that. I actually was looking at an over. The last 3 times these teams played, it went way over.
Yeah.
Way over. But Valanciunas getting minutes should slow the game down. But as far as the side, I want to bet the Pelicans because I know everyone after the last game is betting the Lakers.
Yeah.
But I don't know
82% of money.
how to exactly, but I don't know if there's really enough there.
Two things, Modi. Like two things, because it sounds like Kyle just told us to bet Joval over 5.5 points. I'm pretty sure that's what he just said. But that's why it's so low. I mean, there's going to be a ton of people out there that aren't going to dig into it far enough to go like, oh, he's at 5.5 points because he might not get minutes at all now. Whereas if you look at his recent numbers, which is what most amateur prop bettors are going to be doing, you're just going to see that he's flown over 6.5 and just hit it blindly. But like, so I guess either way though, Modi, where are you at with that? But obviously Joval, but also just the series in general, or I'm sorry, this play-in game.
Right. Yeah. I'm not touching Joval. If I had the lean, you guess like they just got smoked. They're probably going to try something different and they're probably going to play him. But I wouldn't put my money on that. That would be my prediction. I know that some people I know like his over for that exact logic. Like, why would they only play? Like, why would they do the same thing they just did that got them smoked? And maybe you can make the argument like shooting regression, but still, I mean, like NBA players can make wide open 3-pointers, and that's what the Pelicans defense is. They leave dudes wide open.
Yeah.
So part of this, like, I picked the Pelicans to win straight up. I will admit one of my weaknesses is I try to be different. So if I see all the money on one side, if I see everybody, the narrative leaning one way, my natural like instinct is just to bet the opposite of that. And I just also part of my like ethos is just like bet the opposite of what just happened. Like the Lakers, like that game was over in the first quarter. LeBron had 7 assists in the first 6 minutes or something like that. Like I don't think Zion's just going to lay down and die like he did last game. Like last game he scored like 12 points. He didn't do anything. The 2 games prior to that against the Lakers, 26 and 30 points. So Brandon Ingram played in both of those games. Right. The one game where he was terrible was the play-in game, and that was like the quote unquote like low moment for Zion. Like basically since not like directly after that, but he had a really good stretch in the middle of the year, and he had a good stretch in these like whatever games that Brandon Ingram has been out. So like the Zion, I know we're not getting into player props yet, but like I like the Zion points angle. And in terms of the matchup, I probably would lean towards the over because the Lakers, even if Joval plays more, the Lakers have been playing really like I didn't look at this stat today, but last week the Lakers over the past 10 games were playing the fastest pace in the NBA, faster than the Wizards. And that's part of their like why they've been playing better recently is they sped up the pace, and like D'Lo has been running a lot of that stuff. So I would lean over kind of like what Kyle said, and I would also lean Pelicans as well for the main lines.
They're still first in pace last 10 games.
Still? Okay. Yeah.
I totally buy all that. I can't shove a Pelly's bet out there, to be honest. I'm still a little bit nervous about it. What I can see is a first quarter that the Pellies win. I can easily see that, and I think that's going to be a play for me. While I've got you here, Kyle, I know I wasn't going to talk about it, but while we've got you guys here for this as well, let's just touch on the other Western Conference series.
There's actually one more thing I want to mention. It's more for betting aside, but I forgot to bring this up. So in the first game, let me get the exact numbers right here. So the turnover discrepancy, Pelicans turned the ball over 19 times compared to 15 for the Lakers. So the Lakers won the turnover battle. If you look, that should have been the other way around. The Pelicans, one of the best defenses at forcing turnovers. The Lakers struggle to protect the basketball, and the Pelicans offense doesn't turn the ball over. They're 3rd in the last 5 games, 7th in the last 10. So again, if you're looking for an angle for the Pelicans, they're not going to turn the ball over 19 times again, and they should definitely win that turnover battle instead of losing it.
Right. So
there are angles for a Pelicans bet there. It's tough though.
Yeah, I can understand that. I am going to transition us real quick to the Kings and the Dubs for a sec, and just ask, like, I'll kick it off with you, Modi, but like, is this still just like big bro over the Kings? Is there some sort of hole that they have, or is there actually some kind of like data within the matchup that you kind of look to go, well, no, this isn't just like last year's Game 7 where the Dubs, Steph came in and scored 50 points, where I was actually at that game. That was the most incredible performance I've ever seen. Like, do you bank on that again, or is it, because it's a 1-game scenario again? But
yeah, I mean, that Kings team was way better last year. They were healthier last year. That's part of the reason why they were the 3 seed, was they were like the only team in the West that just had a normal season and stayed healthy. Right. I also, we'll never know if De'Aaron Fox doesn't break his finger. The Kings might win that series. It might not get to 7.
They do win that series.
You sound like a Kings fan, but yeah.
I'm not a Kings fan.
And they win this game.
You think that? See, I disagree. I think that the Warriors win. I mean, like missing Kevin Huerter, missing Malik Monk. That's just so much secondary creation.
Dude, they've been playing better without him. I know. Okay, hold on. I know there's this narrative, and this is where the value's at. There's this narrative that the Kings suck right now. You want to like take a look at their schedule? Okay, they're 2-5 in their last 7 games. Phoenix, they lost by 1 point. Suns, one of the hottest teams in basketball. Pelicans, they lost to. At Oklahoma City, okay. At Boston, they lost by 1 point. At New York, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Golden State's probably going 2-5 in that stretch too, man. Like
that Boston loss, they didn't play any of their starters in the fourth
no,
quarter.
I
that was tough.
Yeah.
And the Knicks came back against them after they had a double-digit lead at halftime too. I'm not ready to just poo-poo what you're saying at all, Kyle. I'm strictly saying like I'm actually leaning towards like the Kings. Like I agree with you in that. First of all, Monk might play. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but Malik Monk
I didn't know.
might
I thought he was
play.
out.
Yeah, totally. I thought the same, but there's zero information, and actually zero information is indicative that things are changing from he's clearly out towards he might play, right? Because otherwise they would just come out and be like, oh, he's questionable. They're not even giving it that, right? So they're withholding that until they can, I don't know, maybe they don't want to get fined like everybody's getting fined these days for their lineup reports. But like the thing with no Monk and no Huerter is you've just added Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell to your rotation with a lot more minutes. And those are two of the better defenders above the break that you're going to find. And what matters when you're playing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is how good are you at defending above the break, like plain and simple, right? So that's why I do struggle with the winner. I think an under was a good play until somebody smacked it down from like 226 to like 220, 222 around that range now. So we lost like 3 to 4 points. But every little ounce of data that I have is like this is going to be a lower scoring game than the normal Kings and Dubs, super fast, like 260s totals, right? Like that kind of stuff. So I do lean towards the under with all that. But as far as like this 1 game sample, like I still just can't bet against the Dubs in 1 game with Stephen Curry on the floor, well rested from not playing that Jazz game last time. Like that's just kind of where I'm at with the playing game. But any final thoughts on that one, Modai, with that matchup on Wednesday?
No, I mean, that's a good point with Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell, like two of the better guard defenders. It definitely helps them defensively, and like maybe it's like Fox has historically played really well against the Warriors. He's like his point total over 27.5. He's cleared all 3 games against the Warriors this year. Before he broke his finger, he had like gone over 30 in 2 of the 4 games in the series last year. So maybe if he can carry the offensive load, so I don't think it's going to be a Sabonis game. Like Draymond might try and injure him in the middle of the game, or I also just think like that's the tough matchup for Sabonis because of Draymond, how smart he is defensively. So if Fox can carry the load on offense, which he does have a pretty good matchup to do so, then yeah, I can see the logic for the Kings. But maybe that's too square or like my logic here. But I just like I lean the Warriors. I just think they're better.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people are doing, and is like you said, I can't see the Warriors losing again and eliminated, and as a result of that, we're seeing the Golden State lay 2.5, 3 points on the road here, which is just crazy. I mean, there's not on a neutral court. There's 6.5, 7 point gap between these two teams. I mean, there's no way. I mean, granted, I understand that if you're betting the Kings plus 2.5, you're essentially betting them to win.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's the way you need to think about it.
Let me throw this out there, dude. So the bet that I did make for this, and I mean, just between us girls here, like I'm just gonna chop up what we're doing, and like you're gonna be a part of this Kings Dubs thing that we talk about now, Kyle. Just so you know, I'll just throw you in there, yeah. Because I mean, these are all pre-recorded. I probably won't even leave in what I'm saying right now. But now I'll go back to what I'm saying, which is my favorite bet for this game is the fact that you can get either team to win by 1 to 5 by plus 185, or you can get either team to win by 6 to 10 for plus 210. And I'd hit both of those with a full unit because I'm either looking, if this thing's within 10 points, I'm either winning 8.85 units or 1.1 units. And I'm good with either of those as like a nice little middle. But it's funny that you bring up the plus 2.5 is like, you might as well bet the Kings money line.
3 straight 1 point games.
and the first one was an 8 point lead. So we're talking about 2.75 margin of victory on either side. So 2.5 is like where this should be at for either team, and you might as well just hit a money line. But like, yeah, like it's kind of interesting that it's that close, right? So consistently, and there's been the largest lead in all 3 of those games too there was like a 16-point lead, a 17-point lead, a 12-point lead. So these teams are just scoring and then coming back and then back and then back, right? And so I think you see a lot of that. And if you keep it to under 10 points and you get plus money or any kind of good money on any of those bets, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if either of you have any consideration there.
Yeah, I mean, these teams have played 3 straight 1-point games.
Crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know that level of detail. Yeah, you're
Kings
basically
won the last 2 though.
Yeah, you're basically just betting that it's not going to be a 10-point game, like not going to be a blowout, essentially, and a guaranteed profit either way, which makes sense to me. Like I can get behind that.